host, Dylan Conroy, back with another episode of the Ad Podcast. And today we have a super exciting marketer that I'm really excited to share with you guys. Amy Zwagerman is the CEO of The Launchbox, which is a boutique agency specializing in helping entrepreneurs and startups with their marketing plan and really helping entrepreneurs figure out that they need to be focused on their marketing day one of when they start putting together their idea. Amy has over 25 years of experience as a traditional entertainment and media marketing executive with large roles inside of marketing organizations like MGM, Fox, and ESPN. And then she decided to pivot into space and went and got her MBA at Pepperdine and decided that wasn't enough and she needed to stick around and actually become a professor there. So super excited to kind of document a little bit of her experience and how she decided to do that. So Amy, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me. That was quite the introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Cool. Well, I gave the audience a little bit of a snapshot, but can you walk us through your background a bit and maybe some of the highlights as you kind of went on this journey and decided to launch your venture?
Sure. I think my background is entertaining because it's both luck and timing as well as hard work, right? I do acknowledge I was lucky. I moved out to California a couple years after I graduated from undergrad and landed at a small company as a marketing management. So not a sexy job, management, like creating presentations to citizens, right? That landed a job at People magazine as a and then moved into advertising world. So those moves aren't easy to spell in my lap. I chased them, but I to the right people to get there. So once I was working in the home entertainment side, so we had big trade events, lots of learning, and I got to work at Paramount, ESPN, and all amazing companies, amazing stories and people that I'm sure we'll cover today. At one point, I looked up and realized I was no longer I was doing. One of the things that I still love is that every project is looking at a movie, but it has a different audience, and the way you market it, and at some point, I feel like it wasn't as exciting to me anymore. So I decided to get my MBA, the two-year program at Pepperdine, and I kind of found my passion again, starting mostly as a way to stay in touch. And when I graduated and doing my own thing, both of these well. So I decided to give it a shot. And then, so when COVID hit and everyone was at home and no one knew what was happening, I just that I probably wouldn't have before. I ended up working with CoFoundersLab and entrepreneurs and founders, and I quickly realized that and that I could really help. I didn't really decide anything less. It became my mission to help founders. I like to say from day one with strategy, with marketing, finding your customers, that founders don't very passionate about their ideas, but if they background, they don't know how to go about it. Millions of blogs on the internet. So I think fine, but it's not. If you don't know which blogs to do, you can quickly become overwhelmed. Founders is to find what and how to take their ideas stage through fruition. And then once they're through engagements and can go all the way up to a fractional hire their own in-house marketing. That rolled. That was a long story.
No, I love it. So, what did you identify most as kind of that, obviously to launch an agency to specialize in working with founders, what was that reoccurring thing that you saw with them that they were missing as it pertains to thinking about the marketing channel as they were concepting their idea? What was that audacious issue that kept you up at night so much that you wanted to launch a company to specifically help them with this main component of the marketing funnel?
There's a couple of pieces to that. One, consistently asking about how to and how to get successful on social. There's a belief that all you have to do is go and run an ad, and you'll make people know that first and foremost are making money for themselves. Their goal is making money running ads. If you happen to make at the same time, that's fantastic. Success. And then underneath, what I find happens, and this is actually very, very similar between makers, because of it, and it's your baby. You create the yacht in the world, and you're so close at it, you don't necessarily say, who's my customer, what's I solving it, how do I position it in the market, to be that voice from the outside get fit, and helps them when they do launch it and they do invest a lot of money in success. So that's sort of the background for me, is really taking what someone built and figuring out who the audience is and sell that to them in a way that's
very cool. So, something else that I had read, a quote that you mentioned, and I think this goes a little bit to one of the big challenges of being a founder, is that you're kind of out there all alone in the beginning. It's just you and your idea. You are a big proponent of mentorship, figuring out how do you find people who can be sounding boards, advisors, when you don't have a team or you can't afford to hire a team yet, or you're still in that stealth mode, it can be, I've been a founder before, and it's very isolating if you don't have a co-founder, right? It's like you're kind of in your own head quite a bit. What is the importance of mentorship as it pertains to founders, building that team of advisors around them that can help them on that early stage journey before they have, employees that are part of the team?
Yeah, there's a couple of sides to this collaboration. I'm a big believer in the best work I've ever done, no matter where you're collaborating with my teammates and peers. So taking a step back with Mark, one right way to do anything, right? You have to, your strategies, your tactics, and what you, and the closer you are to that, ideas will be, but it is the same goes for people. My idea, I may think it will be, or is, gets input. So taking that idea of collecting it to the founder, where you're working, and I learned to trust your instincts, you're coming up with a lot of it. Being able to have a sounding board for that and to get input is extremely helpful. Or if you go to get funding. So I'm in a position to invest so I can, build a million. But if I were, and I was a solopreneur, harder for me to get that funding. So having a team that are experts in that industry that you want to go, you solve problems before you come across, help you open doors and get that funding. Basically, VCs and those look at you as that you have the right team around you and yourself for success. So there's two pieces of it. When you solve everyday problems and avoid before, and the other is helping you get to that next funding and access and doors and connections.
That's cool. So, I've always found the idea of like a mentor a little bit awkward, I suppose. I've had mentors in my career, but they tend to have been, folks who were my boss, in my early career, especially. And it was kind of, things that happened organically, like mainly, managers and or CEOs of the companies that I had worked for. Never had a lot of mentors outside of those types of roles, and maybe it comes with just that mentality of being a bit of a lone wolf, salesperson or a business development type, where you kind of go out the world and think you have to do it alone. But I've often thought it would be nice to have a mentor. What are some advice that you have to people like me that find this idea of mentorship a little bit hard to kind of wrap my head around? How do you go out and find a mentor in a way that's organic, that doesn't feel cheesy, and how do you get good mentors?
Well, you probably already aware of, or you haven't put a name. It can be a friend, it can be a parent, it can be you just bounce ideas around with a mentor and kind of putting an umbrella. I'm a big fan of this concept called strength finders, and the book basically takes and it tells you what you're already aware of them. Some of them are hidden strengths, right? Is get so good at your strengths that your weakness. It's not this corporate idea of here's where you're weak, so get better. The idea of strengths, you don't worry about your weaknesses, and then strong where you're weak and weak with. And so the reason I would go out and want a mentor who is marketing person, right? And that's what I have, but what I really need is a mentor who's strong, that can help me with the challenges. No matter how great we are, right? We still have, and we're not as good at. And you have to think of the value of your time. It takes me this long to do something in marketing, to do detailed in finance. I can get it done. It's not as pretty as someone. It's not as good as someone who's an expert in 5 hours, where I could have had a call and had someone help. I'm really looking for someone who can balance out your strengths and weaknesses. And I would say, anyone ask a mentor, like, hey, would you be a mentor? Would you have coffee? Put yourself in their shattering. They're never going to say no, or they might say they don't have time to be a mentor, but there's no harm in asking. All doors, and you should never be afraid of doing it.
I love that. That's great. Okay, I want to pivot a little bit into how you've marketed yourself as an expert and also marketed your company. In doing the research on you, I found many, many, many blog posts where you had kind of been part of these kind of hot take roundups where they would interview, 10 to 15 founders. I just thought that was a really interesting way to really get your name out there as an expert, as a CEO, get your company out there. I imagine there must be some type of strategy to getting included in all these roundups and all these different blog posts on, I found them on entrepreneurial sites, smaller professional organizations, and even companies like you were on one with on the blog for Zapier. So how do you brand yourself as an expert and get out there in all these blog posts? Well, maybe a little bit of a tactical question.
I'm guessing you might know but there's companies out there, resources, and you don't even have to pay for that. The biggest one is by Cision, which help a reporter out. It's hero.com. Go and set up a free account and just go on those sites. They post questions, respond to. You submit a response that picked to be in an article or picked for. That's a very easy way name out there and start contributing to articles. The way I do it is I things that I am an expert in, and I want to try not to answer things that are do, because one, it's not what I'm passionate. I answer, my guess is my answer would be someone who is in that arena. So I actually, most of my stuff is done through a company which is now called Featured. Got a little bit of luck and right timing. They reached out to me because they were looking, University of Arizona alumni, which I am one, to respond about getting marketing in business Arizona. So they found me, and I got put in their system, and then started. So again, like that door opened to me through and I started taking advantage of it. And over time, you quotes. I also have my blog where I'm getting other people's quotes through a really interesting world we're living in. Doesn't exist. Just have to find them and take a bit of time. It's
very cool.
PR.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Well, that's really great tactical advice. You've given some people some really great tools leads there. So thank you for that. So I want to touch on a marketing concept that you actually mentioned in one of these hot takes, with the idea that when you're a founder and you're taking your company out of stealth and you're marketing a startup, you need to have a localized approach to your marketing versus kind of a global or a national rollout. And you didn't you qualified that to not really talk about local, like you're not talking about geography there. What you're really talking about is, figuring out like what's your core audience that you can serve that is small enough to be impactful, to where then you can naturally grow and kind of expand out to larger and larger circles of influence. I was thinking a lot about the Facebook example, which I know a lot of companies have kind of tried to replicate, where it's like, hey, first Facebook went really viral within the Harvard community, and then they went to the Ivy League community, and then they went to colleges, and then they went nationwide. They kind of took this, ever expanding circle of influence out to larger and larger groups, and almost made it feel exclusive to the people that were in early. Can you talk a little bit more about that idea of a localized approach to your launch marketing?
Yeah. I mean, I gave my whole answer. So let me see what I can add. A concentric bullseye, right? You start at the words. And this comes up a founder, and I ask them who their target is. Everyone can use this product, benefit from this product. And that's Starbucks, right? It may be something everyone, but when you're starting out, trying to be everything to everyone, I always get this to be nothing to no one, right? You can't be out the gate. So start having conversations. This is a search and product market fit. That audience that is the path of who's going to buy into my idea, be an early advocate, so I can take that success and then find the next audience. If you're marketing to the whole world, that the whole world, every different reason for liking your product. Going back to Starbucks, is I may go to Starbucks for bucks. It may be on the right side of the street, route to to work, so it's easy. Obsessed with their coffee. It might be that community. Like there's a lot of different benefits that they market. Each one of them is different, and when you're starting new, that first audience, that first salient point, and add in the additional elements. You can't do filming; it's too much money. Modeled. If I go back to this is movies. When you watch a trailer, oh wait, That's a romantic comedy, a drama. That's a trying to mix it all in to reach everybody. A thread. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. No, I love it. It's all about niches, So it's like you said. I remember interviewing somebody that used to work on the Mars account, and they said, "Well, who's your target audience?" And it's, well, anybody with a mouth, right? So there are products that that are a fit for everybody, but that's not. They probably didn't think that coming right out of the gate. Like you talk about Starbucks. Starbucks, yeah, coffee on every corner, but they started out in Seattle, making sure that they service their immediate community really well. And they grew by having awesome product and probably surprising and delighting those customers. So I think that's an awesome insight that I think a lot of marketers skip over sometimes.
I'd have to go back. We did a case study. I don't think their day one strategy was to make a high price commodity, right?
Right. No, that's cool. Awesome. Well, I want to tap back into your B School track because I think it's really interesting for a number of reasons. You've already kind of touched on it a little bit, so I won't retread the reasons that you went to B School. It sounds like you had a really long storied career in the entertainment marketing space, and it just didn't become exciting anymore. And, B School, especially if you're going on a corporate, scholarship or anything like that. I don't know what your situation was, but I know a lot of times when you work for a big corporation, you can get sponsorship for going to business school. And a lot of times that's a great way, just like you mentioned, to maybe have a time to take a break or maybe discover new areas in which you're passionate about. Can you just talk a little bit about, what type of person should be thinking about going to B School?
I'm going to backtrack. I would nerd. I love marketing. You definitely, because I'm reading everything. I'm passionate about it. Is that my first year out of on the GMAT? I was like, I want to get my MBA. And I've applied a couple times through my career, and I didn't get in because I didn't have. And then I worked in entertainment, thought about going back multiple times, and people are you don't need it in entertainment. It's not right. It's not. You can move ahead without it. I put it on the back burner, and I decided to go do it. So after I said I was going to get my MBA, actually, what I'll tell you is that it changed the way in terms of business. Today's business don't necessarily get hired. You do operations role or a strategy role, isolated. It used to be isolated, right? You did your thing, you put out your product. Now everybody has all this data, all this how my decision affects the operations overall business plan decision affects the or so B School came along, was evolving, and it allowed me to kind of put. So to answer your question, look at going to business school, it's to have a bigger role in all the components, how they all fit together. Is that to help strategically move or a project forward? Because and now I'm coming back to like what's always been my right. Companies that operate in silos that are leaner and are working across, people are wearing many hats. Maybe that's why I'm drawn to the entrepreneurial world, not the corporate pillars, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. So I also think it's really interesting that you decided to, go and launch a startup instead of going back into the corporate world with that MBA experience that you had acquired. maybe I'm wrong, but I kind of feel like a lot of times entrepreneurs don't generally go to business school, or they kind of, launch a startup and just go for it. What do you think? What's your advice to? Do you think business school is a good first step for somebody who is potentially thinking of going out on their own and doing an entrepreneurial venture, being a founder?
Yeah, I think truthfully, a long way to go about it. It kind of the idea, who you are, your accomplish. So for me, B school gave me the extra to do it, because I've seen people around me do it here. I also am not a widget product of an incredible idea that I want to build. I have a big skill set, right, that can help. So it's a little bit different selling a service versus a product. I would say if you don't have business, you either were going to need mentors or co-founders, or you need to think about business school, right? Or skills and that knowledge, because it does know how to run a business. You don't understand finances, you run into trouble. You don't have to be an expert, but you need knowledge of the people who can do it.
Very cool. So what made you decide to go as far as you did in the B school environment, where you actually became a professor yourself? So how did that come
about? I saw the answer is I have no idea. A path that I was looking for, that opened up, and I thought, wow, this is interesting. I see where it goes. So when I was in business school, the to take was information technology. No, right? This is going to be horrible. Loved it. I loved Martech. And got to know the professors, got to know the people at the school, and I started working with media and sports because of my background pretty regularly since I graduated. I'm a project events and speakers into the Institute and the reason I got into is actually because I was irritated with this person I kept running into. Why am I so irritated with this person? They've done nothing. And I realized it's because they were and that I wanted to do it. And I wanted to do it. So that's when I said, okay, let me see. It opened up. I got the chance for a class, and I've done it 3 times now on that.
That's great.
And it plays into this as well, because I'm looking to, as a mentor and an advisor, our entrepreneurs, to give them the information so that they on their own. I'm not trying to be forever. I want them to be empowered. I want to give. Ultimately, I did also realize I was also going to be teaching.
Yeah, that's cool. So I want to pivot the conversation a little bit to my industry and see if you have a take on it. So my company provides influencer marketing services for Fortune 500 companies, but we often work with startups and founders. When do you think in a founder's journey, when should they start thinking about influencer marketing and partnerships with people that have large followings on social media?
Well, this will be interesting. A good conversation here. So I think influencers are essential kids, right? So my argument to affect day one, how to get native advocates, such fans of your company that they, and part of that is engaging in the getting trials and getting things like that. You can really take advantage of influencers, or product trials, conversations. So I'm talking influencers, kind of going back to my bullseye. helping you figure out who that first company, helping you with customer research, helping you to understand who your market fit is on that. So really using them as communities that you might not have access to otherwise. You are.
Sorry, I just did a quick camera switch.
Gotcha.
Go ahead.
No, I just said to ask you. So good timing.
Yeah, no, that's very cool. Yeah, I think like you mentioned, it's just a great opportunity if you can figure out who those core influencers are early stage and do either product seeding or early trials. Or I've seen a lot of companies be very successful in actually raising capital from influencers, getting them to invest in their companies. That way they're not hiring them as pay-to-play ambassadors, but they're actually leveraging them as investors, and then they're incentivized organically to share the product versus being paid to do so. So yeah, no, I love that. Awesome. Well, we're getting down to the home stretch.
Sorry, I'd say one of the best ways people to engage in helping you grow your business, involve them in building it, talking about product testing and getting engaging an influencer and things off them, and they're giving you feeding, then yes, they become investors. They become passionate about your success because right now they have a little in the game.
Yeah, no, and look, the influencers are a subset of your customers. So if you can really want to figure out who your customer is, and you can also leverage influencers that look and feel like that person, have similar attributes, but maybe also have a similar audience, they can really help you hammer down and nail that product fit. And, I think that's something that I hear so many entrepreneurs get wrong is they build their product in a vacuum and they don't really think about the marketplace until they go to launch, and then they launch it and they're like, oh crap, nobody really wanted things in this way, or I didn't really think about the customer enough. I think one of my favorite keynotes is from the founder of Expedia. I'm forgetting his name right now, which is horrible, but I've seen him speak a number of times, and he mentioned that he would go down to Walmart and walk the aisles of Walmart and just kind of bump into people and have conversations and kind of pitch the value prop of what he was trying to build at Expedia. And all the other folks were telling him, hey, no one's going to do this because they care about, their mileage, and no one's going to book a flight when they don't know what time they're going to leave. And when he went and actually product tested it with who his customers were, which were people who needed access to low cost fares last minute, it totally validated his product fit. And he was able to, not buy into the feedback that he was getting from the investment community or the travel community, and didn't feed the haters, so to speak. But it could have gone the opposite way too. It could have, validated the fact that those other people were telling him that there wasn't a product fit. So a little bit of a segue off the topic of influencer marketing, but I think you're right. It's, the key is to get in front and talk to customers.
Yeah, no, I want to add to that. You and I, and I've done a lot of market. We did nationwide usage studies, and the coasts and outside of how to talk to people, they're extremely different than ours. Understand their needs, wants, desires, and the bubble I'm living in, everyone else is living in, and it's hard. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy here in California. You have to keep constantly asking yourself, like what are their days look like? You got to rule out, put your mile in their shoes to try and get a read on that.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right. Well, we're getting down to the final stretch here. So, Amy, what has you most excited about the future? You can talk about, what you're doing as an educator at the Pepperdine MBA school. You can talk about the work that you're doing at Launchbox, a little bit of both. But what are you excited about over maybe say the next 6 months of what you're working on?
I'm just excited about entrepreneurs, more people trying to be entrepreneurs. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some go into that, but I'm excited about the market and helping them succeed. I'm excited about launching my own class. I'm excited about working with more entrepreneurs. On thinking about different audiences, it makes that, and the evolution of marketing, the evolution of AI. It's a really exciting to figure out how to play with it and use it in a way efficiencies and helps you get more. I don't want advertising, right? You can use AI to write a whole that. I want to use AI to help me take my a little better, but I want it to be my voice and my work. So there's a lot of exciting.
Yeah, no, AI is it's a complicated subject, and love it or hate it. I, as a business development guy, I hate the fact that it's making so much noise and it's harder to break through as a business development person. But I think, things like this, like having a podcast, being able to spend time with a marketer like yourself or a smart person in the industry, not just have that conversation happen over a coffee table or at a business meeting in a boardroom, but being the beneficiary of on average about 1,500 people who watch my show each week. That's a great way for me to break through. So AI has forced me as a business development person to up my game for sure.
Yeah. Well, think about this. You plop it into some video script in 1 minute, and we can have the AI sound bites and say yes, no, maybe opposed to sitting behind an editing desk for scrubbing,
right?
Figuring it 100%. Out yourself. There's some cool stuff.
Yeah,
out there.
AI has always been
there's some
totally the promise of AI. I always thought the cool part, the promise was really taking, like you mentioned, those labor-intensive, boring parts of being a creative executive and just helping get from point A to point Z faster. So super exciting.
Yeah.
Well, awesome, Amy. Well, this has been an incredible show. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing some time with my audience. Meanwhile, do you have anything you want to plug for yourself, where people can connect with you or get in touch?
Well, sure. I am at so the Launchbox US. That is also my website. I will be in the new year to help founders creating strategy. So find that niche to reach them, because every idea is a unique idea. Unique is the founder and hate with the audience. So that's coming in the new year. Plug and say that I love your blog. I get so much useful information out of it. So it's not easy to put out a regular blog. Quality information on a thumbs up to that.
Well, thank you. Well, I will pass the kudos along to my CEO, who does most of the heavy lifting there. But you said it the best, I think, in another quote. It's all about you're adding value to your own audience, right? Like, we try and not be overly salesy or marketing and just add value to our audience, whether that's through my podcast or her podcast or our newsletter or our blog. It's meant to serve our community and make everybody better. And if that makes us look good and makes us look smart and people want to hire us, then that's a great opportunity. So, well, awesome, Amy.
I was going to throw in, of course, brand selling to them. So with brands, they want to see people, they want to read your blog, watch your podcast. Thumbs up to all of that. doing here.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Awesome. Well, if you receive value from listening to this podcast today, we would ask that you subscribe wherever you're happening to watch it today. If you rate us anywhere where you're listening or watching this as a video podcast, if you would give us a good review, that helps us get discovered by more people and helps us spread the word about the show. And you feel free to tune in next Monday at 1 o'clock West Coast, where we go live normally. And Amy, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Awesome. Thank you.